not for flesh keep silence, and with fear and trembling stand. Under nothing earthly minded, for with blessing in his hand, for struggle to earth descendants, offer homage to divine. King of kings, yet born of Mary, as alone on earth he stood. Lord of lords in human vesture, in the body and the blood, he will give to all the faithful his own self for heavenly food. When God like the hills of heaven spreads its banner on the way, as the light of night descendeth from the realms of endless day, as the birds of hell may vanish, as the darkness clears away. At his feet the saints bring itself, cherubim with sleepless eye, sending praises to their presence, as with ceaseless voice they cry, Alleluia, 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 Lord Most High. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Miserere nostre Domine, quia peccavimus tibi, ostende nobis Domine misericordiam tuam, et salutare tuum da nobis, miseriatur nostri omnipotens Deus, et dimissis peccatis nostris perducat nos ad vitam aeternam. Amen. Gloria in excelsis Deo, et in terra pax hominibus bone voluntatis, laudamus te, benedicimus te, adoramus te, glorificamus te, gratias agimus tibi, propter magnam gloriam tuum, Domine Deus rex celestis, Deus Pater omnipotens, Domine Filii unigenite, Iesu Christe, Domine Deus agnus Dei, Filius Patris, qui tollis peccata mundi, miserere nobis, qui tollis peccata mundi, suscipe deprecatione nostrum, qui sedes ad dexteram Patris miserere nobis, boniam tu solus sanctus, tu solus Dominus, tu solus Altissimus, Iesu Christe, cum Sancto Spiritu, in gloria Dei Patris. Amen. Amen. Semper exultet a populus tuus Deus venovata anime juventutem, ut qui nunc nitatur in adoptionis et gloriam restitutum, resurrectionis diem specie et consolationis expectet, per Dominum nostrum Iesum Christum Filium Tuum, qui te convivit et regnat in unitate Spiritus Sancti Deus, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen. A reading from the Acts of the Apostles. On Pentecost Day, Peter, standing with the 11, lifted up his voice and addressed the crowd. Men of Judea, and all who dwell in Jerusalem, let this be known to you, and give ear to my words. Jesus of Nazareth, a man attested to you by God with mighty works and wonders and signs, which God did through him in your midst, as you yourselves know. This Jesus, delivered up according to the definite plan and foreknowledge of God, you crucified and killed by the hands of lawless men. But God raised him up, having loosed the pangs of death, because it was not possible for him to be held by it. For David says concerning him, I saw the Lord always before me, for he is at my right hand, that I may not be shaken. Therefore my heart was glad, and my tongue rejoiced. Moreover, my flesh will dwell in hope. For thou wilt not abandon my soul to Hades, nor let thy Holy One see corruption. Thou hast made known to me the ways of life. Thou wilt make me full of gladness with thy presence. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Show us not the path of life. Preserve me, God, I take refuge in you. I say to the Lord, you are my God. Oh Lord, it is you who are my portion and cup. It is you yourself who are my prize. Show us not the path of life. I will bless the Lord who gives me counsel, who even at night directs my heart. I keep the Lord ever in my sight. Since he is at my right hand, I shall stand firm. Show us not the path of life. And so my heart rejoices, my soul is glad. Even my body shall rest in safety. For you will not leave my soul among the dead, or let your beloved know decay. Show us not the path of life. You will show me the path of life, the fullness of joy in your presence, at your right hand, happiness forever. Show us not the path of life. the first letter of St. Peter. You invoke as Father him who judges each one impartially according to his deeds. Conduct yourselves with fear throughout the time of your exile. You know that you were ransomed from the futile ways inherited from your fathers, not with perishable things, such as silver or gold, but with the precious blood of Christ, like that of a lamb without blemish or spot. He was destined before the foundation of the world, but was made manifest at the end of the times for your sake. Through him you have confidence in God, who raised him from the dead and gave him glory, so that your faith and hope are in God. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, O Lord. On the first day of the week, 2 of the disciples of Jesus were going to a village named Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all the things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing together, Jesus himself drew near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What is this conversation which you are holding with each other as you walk?" And they stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, named Cleopas, answered him, Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who does not know the things that have happened there in these days? And he said to them, What things? And they said to him, Concerning Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and rulers delivered him up to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the third day since this happened. Moreover, some women of our company amazed us. They were at the tomb early in the morning and did not find his body. And they came back, saying that they had even seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but him they did not see. And he said to them, O foolish men, and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Was it not necessary that the Christ should suffer these things and enter into his glory? And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. So they drew near to the village to which they were going. He appeared to be going further, but they constrained him, saying, Stay with us, for it is toward evening, and the day is now far spent. So he went in to stay with them. When he was at table with them, he took the bread and blessed and broke it and gave it to them. And their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished out of their sight. They said to each other, Did not our hearts burn within us while he talked to us on the road, while he opened to us the scriptures? And they rose that same hour and returned to Jerusalem. And they found the 11 gathered together, and those who were with them, who said, The Lord has risen indeed, and has appeared to Simon. Then they told what had happened on the road, and how he was known to them in the breaking of the bread. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Only St. Luke reports this event directly anyway. There is a reference to it at the end of the Gospel of St. Mark, but here we have the full story. And he has the eye for detail which characterizes him. Indeed, he manages to convey exactly the mode and the mood. What is it? It corresponds to a divine hide and seek. There's something similar to what happens when the Lord appears to the Magdalene. It's actually quite dramatic. These are closed in on themselves, and rather like Simon Peter, depressed. He, with the other fishermen, go back to their nets, their comfort zone. It was all in vain. Also, we have from their own mouth what the common people thought, and we see who was responsible for the crucifixion. It was those in authority against the real wish of the common people, who had a certain amount of common sense and knew full well that this was a prophet, a holy and powerful man. So this coming into a closed conversation, they're completely involved with each other and in interior pain. They hardly notice that this person has come up from nowhere. And of course the questions are almost amusing. What is this conversation which you are holding with each other as you walk? Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who does not know the things that have happened there in these days? What things? Concerning Jesus of Nazareth. And here we are, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word, before God and all the people. Now our chief priests and rulers delivered him up to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Notice the language of the people, to redeem Israel. Did this mean something political? And then these reports, these rumours. Some women of our company amazed us. Did not find his body. When they came back, and seen a vision of angels. So some of those who were with us went to the tomb, but they didn't see him. And then suddenly he goes on to the attack. Oh, foolish men, and slow of heart, that's an Old Testament expression, dullness of heart, to believe all that the prophets, notice the point of reference, have spoken. But still they don't even imagine who's there right next to them. So he explains what we just had actually in the chant, a portet. Was it not necessary that Christ should suffer these things and enter into his glory? And beginning where? Precisely with the points of reference that they have. And it says Moses and then all the prophets. And we have in another passage of St. Luke the mention of the Psalms. So we don't have the exact references, unfortunately. We only have basically what the Christian centuries have understood in the Old Testament, the passages concerning him. This was a great lectio divina before the time, and it's given rise to the expression an Emmaus walk, going to have a walk in which Jesus is in the midst, talking about Scripture and the experiences therefrom. And he, what does he do? Well, this interesting phenomenon comes in. They have this tingling, this burning in the heart. Still, they're not really aware, and suddenly it all unfolds in one great flash, and he's gone. It's rather similar to what happens with the Magdalene, that it's the name, Miriam, he calls her by name. And here it's the gesture that they have seen before. So these two have obviously been there with him doing this before, maybe at the multiplication of bread and fish, looking up to heaven, making the sign of blessing, whatever it would have been at that time. They see, of course. And then, even though it's quite a way to Emmaus and they're tired, they rush back and they have to tell what's gone on. And we have, again, more of the calm, serene, dramatic mode of this good writer, Luke, who says what they say to them. The Lord has risen indeed and has appeared, notice, not to Peter, to Simon. Interesting, the words of the people involved. They're close to the origin, these people, and it is the first apostolic experience which is then the ignition sparked, which is to go round the Mediterranean in a very short time. We're dealing, therefore, here with an encounter with uttermost power which has shocked them. It's only then that they realize there was something really going on in their heart, this burning. And what has happened is that they are becoming aware that actually it's not at all in vain. It's just the beginning. Now, with regard to our own time, it is a privileged moment in history, because something of that has actually come through in recent times, which wasn't there before. we know how already at the end of the 1800s we had the photograph of Seconda Pio, who was able actually to get this notion of a negative, which they couldn't possibly have had. And then towards the 70s, an awful lot of work was done on it. But still, there were problems. And we know how, when the famous carbon dating took place, there was the smile of reason, apparently. Now, it is important to be aware that further research has happened. One of the main scientists knew that he only had a short time on Earth left because he was dying and losing the battle against cancer. But he went full throttle to follow his intuition with regard to what actually had happened. And before he died, he was able to prove conclusively that is actually what happened. There had been repairs on the Holy Shroud centuries ago, after damage done by fire and whatnot. And those holy seamstresses, nuns, with the utmost expertise and delicacy, did everything in their power to repair the damaged edges, and even to colour them so as to make them match completely. Now, he had the intuition that this could be looked into, and he knew how. It was through microscopic investigation of what was in the web of the material itself. And he was able to prove conclusively that actually there was a change in the material at a certain point, indicating where it had been repaired. And it cannot be seen with the naked eye, but can be clearly seen, very much magnified. And so it was clear that whether through demonic collusion or through pure chance, it was a contaminated specimen that was taken. And so, what do we have? With all the studies now done, conclusive evidence that this is actually the real thing. And not only that, but that the moment of explosion was something so much beyond our comprehension that it is actually something that corresponds to the moment of the ignition of the cosmos. Let there be light. The rules of science, the laws of physics, are disintegrating before this ignition. It's called an event horizon. And something happened at that point which corresponded very closely to what happened at the beginning of time. In this, we know now why the bloodstains are red. It's because a person subjected to severe torment for a long time has this emission of liquid which makes the blood remain red even after death. We have here then death. But we have in the napkin life. And what is interesting is that one sees just the opening of the eyes of the risen one for the first moment. They're just opening and the mouth is just half open, starting to breathe. And one placed on the other corresponds perfectly. There is also the Holy Trinket Argenteuil. It is less known, but it also is a precious relic. Here we have our God. It is important to be aware, in talking about matters of life and death, faith and reason, science and belief, that we have the full possession of the truth. All we need is the fact
facts at our fingertips. Often, if people raise their voices, it's because they don't want to face something. Alas, the problem there is not on the object before them, but on what they're carrying inside them. Many people now are very violent and aggressive with regard to the church and Christians. The truth is that they're deflecting their own problem. This one who suffered for us opened at that word, consummatum est, it is accomplished, the barred gates of paradise. What a terrible tragedy if even one soul does not accept the invitation and prefers to remain in the comfort zone of being closed in upon himself, rather like the desperate, depressed apostles